Hi everybody, AstroTarotJohn here, and this is your card for Monday, January 19th, 2026, and this is the Knight of Swords for the Dungeons & Dragons Tarot. The Dungeons & Dragons Tarot calls this the Knight of Intelligence. The equivalent is the Knight of Swords. The Dungeons & Dragons Tarot actually uses different suits, so instead of wands, swords, cups, and pentacles, it uses strength, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. So this is the Knight of Intelligence. When we're dealing with the knights, I see them as attitude adjustments. So this is the attitude adjustment of air. So a lot of the knights are about how we use the air element and the different spectrum of ways in which we can use the air element. A lot of times when the knights come up in a tarot reading for me, it's about how the client chooses to use the air element. So when we're talking about the Knight of Swords, we have a number of different ways we can go. But one of the first things that I would say as pieces of advice for you is it's time for you to take on some task involving the air element that maybe you're nervous about or is new to you. This could be taking on a new academic subject, this could be taking on a new class, but like my friend Sarah Jane, who recently took on a recent academic actually speaking challenge, she decided to talk to someone about a topic that was very important to her that she was nervous about. And so kudos to you, Sarah Jane, for taking that on like the Knight of Intelligence. So please, step up and take on a topic that you might be nervous about, or address a subject with someone that might be a little bit difficult. The Knight of Intelligence is great for a subject that is difficult. And so I encourage you to step up and take something on. My second piece of advice is understanding that how you give the message is half of the message. If you have a message to deliver, it is much easier to deliver a difficult message in an easy way than to deliver it in a harsh way. We all know this. We learn it in a very young age, but it's important for us to be reminded of the fact that if we have to give a message that is not favorable, not really positive, that we should always try to be constructive when we do so. It's so much harder to deal with a difficult message if we have to hear it done in a very harsh or nasty way. So we need to try to make sure that as we are giving negative feedback, we're doing so in a very constructive way. Finally, we need to remember the impact that our words have on other people. When we are hearing the words in our head, we need to think about what it would feel like to hear them if someone said things to us. This is something I think about as a tarot reader all the time. I always wonder about what the impact would be across my table if someone like a reader were saying it to me. It's vital that I keep that in mind as I read for other people. The same thing goes for everyone else. If you have to give a message that's challenging, when you're talking to people, you know, this kind of bleeds into my earlier point, but you need to make sure that you are being very aware of the emotional impact of your words, because words are very, very powerful things. And so be very aware of how emotionally something may hit another person. And to be fair, you might not always know how something is going to impact another person emotionally, and you can't do anything about that. But if you think that something might be difficult for someone emotionally, tread very carefully and always keep in mind that what you say to someone might hurt, and try to mitigate that as much as possible as you're saying the words. In any case, this is the Knight of Intelligence, also known as the Knight of Swords in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. This is your card for January 19th, 2026. I'm AstroTarotJohn. It's my pleasure to be with you today. Thank you as always for watching this video. I look forward to seeing you across my table soon, whether virtually or in person.